All right, so welcome to another deep dive. And this one's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's kind of unique.
Yeah, you guys shared something pretty intense with us, Psalm 109 from the New Living Translation of the Bible.
Wow.
And we're going to kind of go through it and see what we can learn from it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can pull out of this.
Yeah, I think so too. When you first think of a psalm, it's not exactly, a source for a deep dive. It's not like, I don't know, like a historical, document or something. But
Right, it doesn't seem like it would have that kind of
yeah.
depth.
But this one is so full of emotion and this real yearning for justice.
Yeah.
And, it brings up some really fundamental questions about how we react when we feel like we've been wronged.
Absolutely. And I think, just to kind of set the stage a bit, this psalm is traditionally attributed to King David, and it's addressed to the choir director. So this wasn't just, a private diary entry or something.
Okay.
This was meant to be expressed publicly, likely, as part of a communal worship experience.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
So one of the things that jumps out right away is this tension. We have this person who's pouring out their heart about their enemies, even calling down, some pretty serious consequences on them.
Oh, yeah.
But then at the same time, they're saying they've actually loved and prayed for these same people.
It's a real paradox.
Yeah, it is. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think what's really fascinating is right from the start, the speaker directly addresses God in those opening verses. And there's almost this tone of, like disbelief or shock, like, "Oh God, whom I praise, don't stand silent while the wicked slander me and tell lies about me." It's a cry for help,
Right.
a cry for divine intervention when they feel like they're being treated so unfairly.
And then it gets really personal, in verses 3 through 5.
Yeah.
They're talking about being attacked with hateful words and fought against for no reason.
And then you get that, gut punch. "I love them, but they try to destroy me with accusations, even as I am praying for them. They repay evil for good and hatred for my love." You can feel the betrayal.
Right. It's like, wow.
Like, how do you come back from that?
Yeah. And it's like, I'm trying to be good to you. I'm praying for you. And you're just stabbing me in the back.
Yeah. And I think that sense of being betrayed so deeply, it almost seems to fuel everything that comes next.
Okay.
Which is really intense. Starting in verse 6, you get this whole series of pronouncements against the enemy.
Yeah.
And it's not just, bad luck or hoping something bad happens to them. It's way more than that.
It's like really intense.
Oh, yeah. It's like they're calling down the forces of the universe to bring this person down.
Yeah.
It's like this primal desire to see things made right, to see justice served, even if it's, with that kind of ferocity that mirrors the pain they're feeling.
Okay, so let's look at some of these pronouncements specifically because they're pretty intense.
Oh.
So verse 6 starts by saying, "Get an evil person to turn against him. Send an accuser to bring him to trial." Like, this isn't just hoping for bad luck.
No.
This is like, I want this person to be actively pursued by evil,
Yeah. Yeah, and then it just keeps escalating in verse 7. "When his case comes up for judgment, let him be pronounced guilty. Count his prayers as sins." It's like they're saying even his attempts at being good are twisted and turned against him.
Right. It's like, wow, okay.
You can really sense the depth of how wronged the speaker feels.
And then it gets really heavy.
Yeah.
Verses 8 and 9. "Let his years be few. Let someone else take his position. May his children become fatherless and his wife a widow."
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah, it's like extending that suffering
Yeah.
to their whole family, their core, their legacy, their future. It's like wiping them out.
It speaks to how important family and legacy were back then, that's where you strike, to inflict the most pain.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it doesn't stop there, verses 10 through 13. It's like piling on this image of complete ruin.
Yeah.
His kids wandering around as beggars, driven from their homes, everything they owned, taken by creditors and strangers. And then it's like this chilling wish that all his descendants would die out, his family name completely erased.
Wow.
Like they're trying to wipe out any trace of this person ever existing.
It's almost like a curse from a Greek myth or something.
Yeah, you're right. It's got that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, okay. So then verses 14 and 15 shift the focus to the sins of the enemy's ancestors.
Okay.
It's like they're saying, Lord, don't ever forget the bad things they did and let his name be forgotten completely.
Wow, so it's not even just about this one person.
Right.
It's about their entire lineage. Like they want them erased from history.
Yeah, and then finally in verse 16, we get the speaker's reasoning for all this.
Right.
They say it's because he refused all kindness to others, he persecuted the poor and needy, and he hounded the brokenhearted to death.
Okay, so they're trying to justify these pronouncements.
right? They're saying this isn't just random. It's a consequence of what he put out into the world.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic balancing of the scales.
Yeah, exactly. And then verses 17 through 19 really drive that home.
Okay.
He loved to curse others. Now you curse him. He never blessed others. Now don't you bless him. Cursing is as natural to him as his clothing, or the water he drinks, or the rich food he eats. Now may his curses return and cling to him like clothing. May they be tied around him like a belt.
Wow, it's powerful imagery, right?
Yeah, it's like you reap what you sow.
Yeah, exactly. What you put out into the world comes back to you amplified.
And then verse 20 kind of wraps up that whole section by saying that these curses are the Lord's punishment.
Right, so it's not just the speaker's anger, it's God's will being done.
Yeah. And I mean, as we said before, this is some really intense stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it'd be hard to read this, and not feel a little bit uncomfortable with it.
It definitely challenges our modern sensibilities about justice and forgiveness.
Right, because it's so raw and unfiltered,
Yeah. But it gives us this glimpse into how people in a very different time and place processed these feelings of being wronged.
Right.
And how they sought justice.
Yeah. Okay, so then we get to around verse 21, and there's a noticeable shift.
Oh.
The tone changes pretty dramatically.
Like a 180.
Yeah, the speaker moves away from those, fiery pronouncements, and it becomes more of a personal plea for deliverance.
Cool.
It's like
Wow.
they've exhausted all that rage, and now they're turning inward and saying, okay, help me.
It's like they've gotten it all out and now they're in a more vulnerable place.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they turn back to God, but they kind of change their approach a little bit.
Okay.
In verse 21, they say, "But deal well with me, O sovereign Lord, for the sake of your own reputation. Rescue me because you are so faithful and good."
Okay, so it's not just about their suffering anymore. It's also about God's honor and reputation.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, God, if you don't help me, it'll make you look bad.
Exactly.
It's a very different angle.
Yeah, it's like a subtle form of persuasion.
Yeah. And then in verses 22 through 25, the focus really turns inward.
Okay.
The speaker describes himself as poor and needy, with a heart full of pain, feeding like a shadow and feeling like skin and bones from fasting.
Wow. So they're really painting a picture of vulnerability here.
Yeah, it's like a total contrast from those powerful pronouncements early.
It's like they're saying, look, I'm weak, I'm hurting, I need your help.
And it shows the toll this conflict has taken on them.
Right.
Like, it's not just emotional, it's physical too.
Yeah, and that vulnerability, it's crucial because it shows how powerless they feel against their enemies.
Right.
Like they've been completely diminished, and it makes you wonder if that feeling of helplessness is what fueled that anger earlier.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then that reliance on God is so clear in verses 26 and 27.
Okay.
Help me, O Lord, my God. Save me because of your unfailing love. Let them see that this is your doing, that you yourself has done it, Lord.
Okay, so they want God to step in and be seen doing it.
Yeah, it's not just about being saved, it's about being vindicated.
Like they want a public display of God's favor.
Yeah, it's like, show everyone that you're on my side.
It's a powerful statement.
Yeah, and then we get to the final section, verses 28 through 31.
Okay.
And there's this huge sense of confidence.
It's like a complete turnaround.
Yeah, it's like they've gone from despair to this certainty that God will bless them in the end.
It's a powerful testament to their faith.
Yeah, even if their enemies keep attacking and cursing.
They know God's got their back.
Yeah, exactly. And the verse line is so interesting. It says, their enemies will be clothed with disgrace and covered with humiliation.
Wow.
But the speaker will be praising God and giving thanks.
It's like they're saying, I'll have the last laugh.
Yeah, and it's all because of God's favor.
Yeah.
It's like good will triumph over evil no matter what.
That's a hopeful message.
Yeah, it is. And then the psalm ends with this really cool image in verses 30 and 31. It says, "But I will give repeated thanks to the Lord, praising him to everyone, for he stands beside the needy, ready to save them from those who condemn them."
Wow. That's a great way to end it.
Yeah, it brings us full circle back to that plea for help.
But now it's framed with this declaration of God's support for the vulnerable.
Right, and that God is the ultimate source of justice.
Yeah, it's like a mic drop moment.
So, this deep dive into Psalm 109 has been pretty intense.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I think we've seen some really important things about human nature.
Absolutely.
Like how complex our emotions can be.
Right.
This speaker has this intense anger and desire for revenge, but also this deep faith and hope in God's justice.
And it reminds us that throughout history, people have struggled with feeling wronged, and they've sought ways to find justice, sometimes in ways that we might find unsettling today.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that this psalm doesn't shy away from those darker emotions,
Dark.
but it ultimately points towards this belief in a higher power that can bring about justice and offer comfort in the face of suffering.
It's a message that still resonates today.
Yeah, it does, and it raises some really interesting questions for us to think about.
Okay, like what?
Well, when we feel like we've been wronged, how do we balance that desire for justice with the ideas of compassion and forgiveness?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. Like, how do we reconcile those two things?
Because sometimes they feel like they're pulling us in opposite directions.
Right. And I think that's something that everyone has to figure out for themselves.
Absolutely, like a lifelong journey.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, that's something for you guys to ponder.
Mm.
How do you navigate those feelings of being wronged and seeking justice while also trying to be compassionate and forgiving?
It's a great question to think about.
Yeah, it is. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, let us know what you come up with.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
See ya.